Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah, a long time ago when I was teaching in the university and I was a little worried about how my class is going to go, I asked a professor, okay, tell me how do I make sure I'm effective in communicating? I said, first make sure that the people are actually paying attention to you. I said, how do I know that? So when you say hi or hello or good morning or good afternoon, you'll find an enthusiastic response from the audience. So let me try again. Hello.
Yes.
Good morning. Yeah.
Howdy.
Could someone close the door? I think, yeah, okay, someone is doing it. Okay. Thank you. I'll talk about how organizations can get into AI. And in the process, I'm actually going to set the topic by giving some data and information about what's happening with AI. And lots of companies, lots of expert consulting companies have made predictions on what's going to happen with AI. And before I even talk about predictions, I want to tell you a story. You guys are interested in stories?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. And that's an enthusiastic response.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. There's a gentleman by name Philip Tetlock, Professor Philip Tetlock. He used to teach in UC Berkeley here some time ago. Now he's teaching in Wharton. He did a very interesting research. For 20 years, he tracked experts making predictions. From 1980 to 2003, almost 284 experts he tracked. He listed and tracked 28,000 predictions. And when I say predictions, I'm not talking about whether it's going to rain in the morning or not, but predictions about something on the security or the transportation or on the political front, or so many life impacting, world impacting events. And after the 20 years of research, his conclusion was, I'm sure there are lots of experts here and a lot of making predictions all the time, but you may want to really understand this research. The result was, the more expert you are, the lesser probability of your predictions coming true. Or in other words, if you know a little more on the topic, I think you're better off making predictions, but if you're really a super expert, your predictions are actually going to be wrong. With that story, I'm going to make a few predictions.
Are you an expert?
This, I think I'm actually quoting, for the next 3 or 4 slides, I'll be quoting information from various expert consulting companies about AI. If the world economies are going to be dramatically impacted, almost twice the growth rates you can see if countries adopt AI. And of course, you have Gartner making predictions about what are the interesting technologies coming up. Of course, you find out of the 10 technologies, I think 2 or 3 impacting AI or some offshoot of AI. I don't know if you've seen the hype cycles of Gartner. They publish every year for various technologies. One of the emerging technology hype cycle this is 2016 hype cycle. And there is a very interesting book written 30 years ago called Crossing the Chasm. Yeah? And that book is relevant even today in terms of how technologies are adopted by companies or even countries or even individuals.
Where is that?
If you
check it here. This one right, this side.
This is the Crossing the Chasm, and that's the hype cycle predicted. I'm trying to actually club together to make a point in the process. If you look at in the hype cycle, the peak ones are some sort of a machine learning, deep learning, AI. So I think we are really in the peak time of AI. And that's exactly where the chasm comes. You have the inventors or innovators working on AI, but you also have companies trying to be the early adopters, but there's also tremendous chasm. Companies are not sure how to do it. Companies are scared of doing it. But at the same time, they hear so many stories and so many conferences like Global AI Conference, people talking about AI needs to be done. So I think I'll try to make a few predictions and try to make a few recommendations on what needs to be done. Again, McKinsey has predicted some industries are a lot more better poised to get into AI than the other companies, but predominantly all of these companies or all of these industries, if they want to make an impact, they has to have lots and lots of data. If your company produces or if your industry produces lots of data, there's a higher probability of you getting into AI. But again, it's more of a necessary but not sufficient condition. Any transformation activity in organizations goes through almost a similar life cycle. And if your organization has gone through some sort of a digital transformation, if you guys have done digital activities in the last few years, 4 or 5 years, then you know how to transform the organization from a non-digital to a digital activity. And AI transformation is almost similar too. Before we get into suggestions and recommendations on what needs to be done, what organizations can do to transform themselves, first and foremost, organizations need to understand why you want to do it. And there could be so many reasons. What is that you want to solve? Whether it's the industry is doing it, or the government regulations, or you think they're going to get more valuations, or maybe better services, or better products. If you look into some of the research done too, companies are trying to transform into AI for a bunch of reasons. Of course, one of the reasons is getting a competitive advantage. 84% of the executives felt that it's going to give a tremendous competitive advantage, and as low as 60% of the executives feel that customers are asking for it. So organizations don't have much of a choice, looks like, to move into. Also, if you look into the research done here, for certain industries, executives felt that there's a huge impact AI is causing in their companies right now, and in the next 5 years, there's going to be similarly huge impact coming up too. So organizations don't have much of a choice, looks like. And it's not easy. AI adoption challenges companies. Sometimes it could be because of lack of awareness or lack of real understanding of what is it you can accomplish and is possible to accomplish and you want to accomplish. Someone told me 6 months ago that there are only 5,000 AI experts in the world. Maybe the number has changed now. I see around 50 right here. Out of these 5,000 AI experts, 90% are working for these 6 or 7 major big companies. And there is huge demand. I was actually speaking in a conference the other day in London. I've seen in Europe, companies feel the same eagerness to go to AI, but there's a higher demand-supply gap on the AI talent in Europe. So if you're looking for a lot more better job, I think you should think of moving to Europe too. This is a nice quotation. Don't do AI for any other purposes, but try to do it as you're solving a business problem, not just a minor activity. There are 8 focus areas, in my personal opinion, based on my limited reading and exposure to various people in the world, in my conferences or otherwise. These 8 focus areas I've seen people focusing on if they want to really get into AI. The first is going to be the mindset. Are you ready for AI? And many companies may say, okay, we want to do AI because it's going to give me an extra feature or maybe some cost savings, yes, or reach out to my customers. I think I'm trying to see whether I'm going to be persistent or that.
Are your slides available on the Google Drive?
Not yet.
Will they be?
Not sure.
Okay.
I'm not planning to yet, but
okay.
If someone can convince me, yes, I may. But right now I'm not.
So you don't mind if I take some pictures? No
problem.
Okay.
Yeah, you can take pictures. Yeah. So AI readiness is going to be, I think, a huge task. When I spoke to some of the CXOs in Europe, they all want to do it, but I think maybe for wrong reasons. Sometimes people say, okay, how can I get AI? Can I just buy it off the shelf? Can I just get a third-party company come and do it for me? All of those things can help, but I think it's going to be a fundamental question I think companies are asking, but need to also ask in terms of, am I AI ready? What is that it takes for me to get into AI? What type of transformation activities I'm going to be doing? Those questions need to be answered. And again, if you have lots of money, you can always hire high-paid consulting companies that can come and do it for you. But internally, organizations, especially mid-sized and small-sized companies, I think need to really ask the questions. And the AI readiness can be identified in multiple ways. For example, do you have a strategy? Do you even know the gap? Have you done a gap analysis? Do you know where you are, where you want to go? And then, of course, eventually a map can help. But if you don't know where you are, or if you don't know where you want to go, and if you don't have a clear understanding of the from and the to, then I think the map is not going to help. So the first and foremost, I feel AI readiness is going to be, I think, really people, I think, need to pay attention to AI readiness. Awareness is at two different levels. Do you, as an organization, understand what AI means? Do you want to make a recommendation engine, or do you want to create a chatbot? Do you want to make a better assessment of the demand supply situation? If you are a port management company or if an airlines company, do you want to predict how many passengers are going to make a last minute cancellation and hence predict what's going to be the impact on the revenue? That's one type of awareness of what AI can bring. That's what's one awareness. Second is people or companies, especially senior level people, don't understand what AI can do. Of course, you hear all the time. Just today in the morning, if you have turned on your NPR radio, the World Economic Forum is going to happen soon. Every country is going to go to attend. The report that is published by World Economic Forum on the eve of this event coming up, one section talks about the impact of AI. There, they are talking about the so-called AI weed. In other words, minor algorithms which are developed without much of a thought by companies, which are going to be hosted on the internet, will eventually clog up the internet, take up the bandwidth, take up the latency, and impact tremendously, and you don't know what's going to be happening with the same data by the same model going forward. And club that in the context of the GDPR regulations coming up in Europe. I don't know, maybe I think there'll be similar regulations coming up in the United States too going forward. Nothing is planned, looks like, but the awareness, that's a second type of awareness. Organizations need to understand what can AI do, what AI cannot do. I want to just put this information up there. I think recently published, it's sort of a summary published by Stanford, summary of AI progress in the last 100 years. The message in this slide I want to communicate is some of the models developed using AI have crossed human performance, especially on the image processing. Models can predict better than humans. For example, the human error rate apparently is around 6%. That is, out of every 100 pictures you want a human being look at and predict what the picture is about, 6 pictures the human being will make an erroneous prediction. But models can only make an error of 4 to 5%. That is, models can predict better. What does that mean? What is the meaning of models go beyond the performance of human being? There's one use case for that. A couple of years ago, I've read if you want to secretly send your pictures, you don't want it to fall in the wrong hands, and even if it falls in the wrong hands, they cannot decipher because it's a blurred image. There are image processing models that can take a blurred image and reconstruct the original image. So if you're sending any images which you don't want to fall in the wrong hands, please don't send it anymore. Of all the activities in an AI project or an AI process or AI transformation activities, I have seen 80% of the time is spent on data, some process of data activities. There are so many questions. Do you have all the data? Is it correct? Has it been stored in the right way? Is it sparse? Is it distributed? Is it being located in multiple locations? Are they storing the data using the same format, the same units? There's I'll show, there's another survey done by Kaggle, Kaggle.com. Have you guys heard of Kaggle? People who have not heard, who have not used it, I think you should just go to Kaggle.com. There's a huge number of research and huge number of projects being done on Kaggle and it's, on AI projects. There's a survey done on that too, and I'll show that in a minute, but data is going to be a huge problem. And unfortunately, at this point of time, using all the AI solutions, whether it's a numeric AI solutions or image processing, text processing, you need to have lots and lots of data. Except image processing, there is a very recent innovation that's happened 4 months ago, 3 months ago actually, October of 2017. A new model has been invented, announced, which also has proven some results. It's called capsule networks, which actually doesn't need millions or not even hundreds of thousands of data, but it only needs a few hundreds, and a best case scenario, it needs only a few dozen items in a data set for image processing.
What's the name?
Capsule networks. Jeff Hinton published a paper in October 2017. They're available on archive.
Is it from IBM?
Now, this gentleman, I think, works for a Canadian university, I think, but now I think he works for Facebook, I guess. Yeah. Google, yeah. There are 4 other focus areas I really want to put together in one slide. There has to be a plan. Organizations need to. So if you're making a checklist of what activities need to be done in the plan, you've got to know what budget, how many people, what's a SWOT analysis, what's the sequence of activities to be done. Capability. That's another biggest problem in organizations. There are no supply of people who can actually come and help organization. I don't know, in the audience, Dean is there? Dean not here. There's a gentleman there, I met him. They actually help organizations in security, but also I think trying to do a lot of AI. Companies like that may be available. Again, Dean, you didn't pay me. You need $20, yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Companies like that, I think there are not too many available to help organizations migrate. Even forget about the migration part. If you're trying to develop AI solutions, you don't have enough people available who actually can do the development. There are, of course, lots of free courses available online, and some of the universities are producing ML experts, but I think they're not enough. Here is a scary thing that's happening. As close as Stanford University, where they offer MS in ML, do you know, I think they have almost 700 students signing up every year for MS and ML. Large percentage of the students quit in the first 6 months to 12 months to 18 months without completing. Large percentage. Why? Because companies who are trying to hire them don't have enough time to let them finish the course. They want to just say, okay, you've done your image processing course, come on, we have a job for you. I think, forget it. People, that's on one hand. And of course, I'm the only one recording, I guess, so please don't quote me outside. Even famous professors who actually have the noble responsibility of creating more and more experts are joining companies. And recently, I think some chairperson of Stanford Computer Science joined Google. I don't know the name of the person. Lots of people like that. Again, I'm sure it's a personal choice.
Same is from
But-
Oxford also.
Yeah, there's lots.
Bishop.
Yeah. So it's the supply, even though there's a huge demand, I think supply is really getting affected. I think people just don't have time. So capability is a huge issue for organization. If your organization is trying to go into AI and ML, you're going to have a tough time getting people. But wait for the last slide. I have a solution for that too. That's another way of making sure that you pay attention and then stay until the last slide. But anyway, getting external help, yes, that's I would recommend. I think a lot of companies are doing it. Again, sometimes the quality of such external help also could be an issue. Change management, like every other transformation activity in the organization, people will fall victims for myths and stories about what's going to happen. Especially, I think job loss is going to be a huge problem. So if you are a mid-level or a senior level executive trying to do AI, and if you need to address that question first, okay, how many jobs are going to be lost? Are there going to be jobs lost? And if yes, how and why? This is a survey done, and Kaggle, I think, is published in October, I think, of last year. Look at the state of affairs of AI in organization. Dirty data is the biggest factor for organizations not able to do AI. So this, again, the state of affairs in the organization is trying to do. The smallest is, I think, 13.6% of the people felt integrating findings into decisions is a bigger issue, but that's maybe, I think, a lesser concern for many companies. Dirty data, lack of data science talent. The second most problematic thing for organizations is lack of data science talent. What to focus? You had a question, ma'am?
Well, just curious, 2 slides ago you were talking about one of your bullets, change management, second bullet down. Is there buy-in for AI? Is they scared? I was wondering if you can expand on that when you're talking about shortage of talent, dirty data. What's the psychology of people who are afraid of this? I deal with people in the healthcare space as a technologist and a clinician, experience, you could talk about what kind of psychology is in people who are
Okay.
resistant.
In an organization, people are scared for one reason. For example, if you're automating my activities, am I going to lose my job? Or am I going to have a restricted job opportunities? Will I get a chance to grow in the organization? That's one of the first problems. Second is applying to your industry. In healthcare especially, if you are developing a solution which is making recommendations for patient care or trying to do something which may impact life and death, teaching or educating the patients and the service providers like clinicians and the doctors, etc., is another big problem for organization. If you don't train the person, the patients will be scared of, oh, are you going to replace the doctor with a machine now? Or even if you're making a recommendation, how accurate or how much should I believe these recommendations? And how much of that is biased? For example, just today, there was a discussion on the radio too about Facebook making dramatic changes to their news feed, and they're trying to, of course, bring in a lot of additional restrictions, and they're going to the news feed you get to see next time when you log into Facebook will be more from your friends and families and less from third-party publishers, and they're trying to restrict that's the approach they're taking to restrict the so-called fake news. But the information which is coming in, especially in the healthcare industry, and if the model is making a prediction, how much of that is a biased version of it? Even one of the questions that people were discussing about is, especially in the companies like Facebook, if you have models identifying what news you should see, how much of that is because of the bias of the data scientist or of the engineer who's developing the model? You can blame eventually the model, but the data scientist and the company has to really take the blame to make sure that the model actually makes as less biased predictions as possible. And that's another second scare for organizations when they're trying to do AI. But in this case, when I say change management, predominantly I'm talking about, okay, what will happen to my job? What is going to happen to me? And that type of change management. And if people are going to be, is it going to be restructuring or reorganizing? Are they going to be reassignment? How are you going to communicate that? And remember, when trouble comes up in any organization, the first set of people who leave the company are the best people who actually can find immediately really great jobs. Mm-hmm. So you really want to be extremely careful about the change management. I know you're doing the right thing by doing AI because eventually you're going to provide better services to your customer and you're going to have better revenues and everyone is going to prosper, but then people can fall easily prey for the myth and the so-called the fake news. There is a sociological research done which is published in a democracy, apparently. In a democracy, people eventually will vote against their own interests. There are so many examples of that, but again, I'm trying to give an example, trying to make my point here, but that's not AI. Okay, we talked about the survey here. What to focus?
Can we go a little back here? So what was the top? Dirty data, right?
Dirty data is the first one. Lack of data science talent is another one. Second one. Third one is lack of management, financial support. Oh, okay. It takes a little more effort because you need to train all the engineers trying to do AI, get maybe external help, get some nice tools. There are open source tools available, and there are, of course, paid tools available, and that takes money too. So those are the top three. And then the fourth one is lack of clear question to answers.
Thank you.
Sure. What to focus? There are four major areas, and the top two areas I would suggest is the so-called low-hanging fruit, where you can automate, you can develop AI, you can use AI to develop solutions to automate human activities. Let's say if you have huge amount of data or a text that's coming in, if you are a loan processing organization or if you're into even patient record analysis type of company, those are the helping human activities. I think that would be one of the low-hanging fruit. Of course, you got to be careful about healthcare because I think it's a life and death situation, but I think all other areas where it's a huge amount of paperwork or the lots of number processing need to be done, that's one activity I would recommend. Second is automating, which is what I think a lot of companies are focusing on right now. The third and the fourth activity is, of course, having new major products or dramatically new features for your products, which takes a little more effort. I think if you look into the crossing the chasm, the innovators are the ones which are actually working on right now, trying to bring new features and new products in AI. But I think some of the even early adopters companies who can focus on getting those automating activities and human helping activities for that. So if it is a very, very high level checklist for organization based on what I've seen, people asking questions and my conference speeches or response to my blogs, these are some of the questions. This has to be a first AI motto. You need to understand and you need to define what is that you're doing for AI and why is that you're doing for AI. And there has to be some sort of a gap analysis, sort of finding out what you do currently that will be impacted because of AI. Third bullet, there will be failures. Like every other projects or pilots you do in the organizations, in AI, there will be failures. And the reasons for that is not because of lack of technology, because of the solutions that is being proposed on the statistical ML or text processing or image processing. They are themselves evolving. In June of 2017, 7 months ago, there was a model proposed called model called RCNN, Region Convolutional Neural Networks, proposed, which made image processing faster. June 2017. September 2017, a new model called Fast RCNN was proposed, which actually dramatically improved the speed of image processing by AI models. December approximately, there's another model called Faster RCNN. Again, the creativity of engineers in identifying the right name. I think they didn't have enough experts to branding guys, but it's called Faster RCNN. It processes images a lot more. Then came, of course, a very exciting name called YOLO, YOLO, you only look once. And then, of course, YOLO 2 came. YOLO 1 actually processes 45 frames per second, which is almost real time. So if you're working on autonomous cars, now I think you're talking. Otherwise, it's the previous RCNN and fast RCNN was doing, I think, in 12 seconds. It can process an image. So if you're using that for autonomous cars, you don't want to sit in that car, which actually can process only 12 seconds, because in 12 seconds you can actually go half a mile, maybe. Yeah. And the point I'm trying to make is the RCNN, fast RCNN, faster RCNN, all those plus YOLO 1, YOLO 2 came out. If you are not in touch with the latest things happening, 2 months, 3 months, you're actually obsolete. And hence, bracing for failures, it's possible. Again, when I say a failure, that not that you will not be able to make any recommendations, but your recommendation accuracy is going to be only 85% or 90%, when organizations can make it 92, 93, 94% too. Having a central rallying person in the organization, some sort of a chief product officer, chief AI officer, a digital officer. I think the company, what's the name of the company? They actually have cognitive capability officer. I have the name of the company, I forgot. But anyway, it's so I would say having a central rallying person for the organization, which actually can connect geographically distributed organization or even otherwise having multiple divisions, it's a good idea. Until last year, Google had this Moto mobile first. So any product you develop in the organization, it has to be first done for mobile-enabled devices. For the last 1 year, I think they've said AI first. Any product you develop, you have to think in terms of AI. How can I put AI into this? So having an AI awareness in the organization, people may think, okay, I've got to train only my engineers in AI, but I would say anyone, your finance, your HR, your doctors, clinicians, pharmacists, marketing, sales, everyone in the organization need to be made aware of what AI is and what AI can bring. I think the AI bent of mind, I think, is extremely important. And I've seen that actually bring results in certain organizations which have done that. Multiple pilots, actually, Jeff Bezos mentioned, I think, in 2017 annual report, that they have hundreds of pilots. Typically, I think when you hear about pilots, you talk about one or two pilots. He talks about hundreds of AI pilots going on in the organization. So that's my recommendation too. I think if you really want to do AI, don't wait for that, okay, let's do the first one and then see how it's going to go. No, the technology is proven. Of course, things are changing constantly. Of course, there's going to be better and better things coming, but you can. External help, I think, would be a really good idea, whether it's for training purposes or doing a sort of a gap analysis to understand what organization, where you stand today. Analyzing your data, how much data is in the right format. I think for all of those activities, having a good external help will be interesting. And the other ones, if you want to pick any of those, I can talk a little more. The last but one bullet, keep an eye on your organization's TAs and gorillas. You would have heard of this story about Tay as a chatbot from Microsoft, which actually went wrong terribly. And in 2015, there was an image recognition model of Google, which was predicting certain human beings as gorillas. And of course, these are tremendously bad for your PR for the organization. And also, of course, it also questions your capability of developing a solution. And now we are talking about companies like Microsoft and Google, and so who has so much of capability in the organization develop the model. Still, things can go wrong. Yes, sir.
What are those 2 points? No need for experimentation and the...
Yes. So when the new technology, if companies believe AI is a new technology and AI is a new approach or a new technique, okay, let's experiment and see if it works for us or not. My recommendation is no need for experimentation. Identify what are your challenges, identify a bunch of focus areas that need to be worked on, and if you have a non-critical challenges you want to work on, pick up those and start working on that. If you really want to AI, there's no need for experimentation. There's no, is the tool going to work for me? You think the data is available for me, or can I see if I even can get into AI? Those sort of experimental thought processes, I think, should not be followed. Where I say, okay, we have these challenges, we need to work on this. Let's do AI for that. That's what my recommendation is.
And what is the central coordination for your?
So, what I've seen, some organizations say, okay, fine, we are so geographically distributed, we will let the individual divisions figure out about the AI. So they actually get their own third-party help in doing the trainings and maybe their own way of picking projects. But what I have seen, even for big, massive organizations and mid-sized organizations, some sort of a central coordination helping organizations, okay, fine, we are working on an AI project here, you can also take advantage of it and see if that same data can be used and same solution can be used for your prediction. I've seen this, there's a company in Europe which actually does energy trading. They buy and sell energy from wind, thermal, and nuclear. And typically every country, energy is actually a regulated industry. You got to actually comply with the government regulations and you got to actually have reports going out to them, number one. Number two, you can't actually store so much of energy, fine, okay, you don't need it this month, okay, I'll keep energy for next year. You can't do that. But at the same time, if there is a surge in the demand for electricity, you can't say, oops, sorry, we don't have electricity, you got to go dark. For companies like that, this company was a distributed company where they had windmills, they actually had thermal energy producing centers, and they have nuclear centers distributed across Europe. They tried to initially do AI projects in their own way. They actually did it, okay, each division can work on it, but they changed it dramatically because they are not getting economies of scale, and also I think they felt it's better to actually have a central coordination. Lawnmowers, guys. I think I never thought I would say anything about lawnmowers. The first patent for lawnmowers was issued in 1830. 1830, the first patent in UK. I was reading the other day, lawnmower seems to be the single biggest contributing factor for $620 billion sports industry. Why do I bring up lawnmowers? I think AI will be the lawnmower for all industries going forward. Of course, being an AI guy, I may be completely biased when I say that, but, and my prediction again, remember, I talked about predictions. My prediction is I think AI is going to be everywhere. Actually, AI is already there. When you touch your cell phones and your laptops, it's already there, but it's going to go even a lot more. So that's going to be the new lawnmower. The reason I say lawnmower is because I was smiling to myself. there is a new quotation in AI world. It's called AI is the new electricity. There's a famous gentleman by the name Andrew Ng actually made a statement on that, and then he's written a couple of blogs on that, and everyone quotes that. I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to pick up something else. So it's going to be AI is a new lawnmower. So please, next time when you want to use something about AI, say AI is a new lawnmower. Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you know. Of course, Wi-Fi and battery also need to be added, but I think you also need to add AI to this. Otherwise, I think. Okay, this is the slide where I will not talk anything. There are lots of questions I've heard many times. The answers are controversial answers for these questions. So I cannot talk in a public forum, but if you have these questions, reach out to me. I have my LinkedIn there. You can send me an email or connect there, or maybe you can grab me today, or on Friday I'm going to be back here for a full day session. I can talk about that, but these are some of the questions I've seen a lot of companies have. And there's one question I really wanted to, because it's a little, can I get AI number 14? I can answer the question in public, yeah, sure, if you guys are curious. Otherwise, you want to know?
Yeah.
All of these universities, especially in MS, have educational requirements to do a master project. It's called the Keystone Project in I think in Stanford and Santa Clara University. If you reach out to the respective computer science departments and say, okay, I do have a few AI projects, and I would offer that as a project where we would mentor the students to do the AI project, which will be published as part of the curriculum needs, but you can assign projects which are going to be useful for you. So if you have, let's say, one full-time ML expert in the organization, you can have a bunch of students working for you, which is exactly what's happening when I told you the initial story about companies trying to hire from Stanford, even before they're done. The same thing. You can actually go to a university here, and 99% of the time, those projects are free of cost. You need to just make sure that you're legal about the sharing of IP, because we want to develop at the university, but many times universities don't care for that. You can just take the code and then do the development for yourself. So that's one way of getting a free ML resource. But of course, the number of universities offering ML in MS is limited, so you may not be able to find. But if you go to a good university with MS in computer science and the good programmers, all that you need is maybe one or two, couple of ML experts, and you can actually have a bunch of programmers helping them in developing solutions. That's my last slide. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah.